me struck down when Rochdale becomes an interesting place by way of a by-election that is being leapt on by every opportunist and everyone with a cause by the looks of it. There's new names coming through of people who are looking to run local activists, like the Parents Against Grooming fellow, Billy. Like, I don't know Billy, but I know people who know Billy, if you know what I mean. And it's a matter of ineffectual. It's like, now what? Other side of it, you've got the what we would call the establishment of power in this area, being the Labour Party candidate who's just no one's ever heard of, but he's proven himself to be, you know, fit to the Labour Party, fit for the purposes of the Labour Party. So he would normally in Rochdale enjoy the support of everybody who works for the council or who has some kind of association that can benefit from being in that gang. It's usually enough to get them over the line. They don't give a shit really about, you know, policy and the like. It's whether they get what they want done. So that's the Labour Party, and the Labour Party in Rochdale has got a brown face. It's going to be Muslim. They make up most of the numbers. And then population-wise in Rochdale, you've got it where the voting population is as high as 50-50. Pakistani, Bangladeshi, etc. versus everyone else. So there's a unique set of demographics at play in Rochdale that are not the case most places. So you say the Parents Against Grooming guy running to be elected, he's not going to get elected, but he's kind of out of his element as well at this moment in time, because on the other side of it, you've got it where there's something I know for an absolute fact, right? At any stage in the last 10-15 years, if Rochdale had become available to run a by-election in, George Galloway would have run in Rochdale. And you know what? George Galloway would win in Rochdale. Because, you know, your local Labour Party guy, he might have his own position, but at the minute, the war drums around the world are a beating. At the same time as Mark Coleman, old friend of mine, Mark, decent enough lad, shouldn't be involved in anything political because he doesn't know enough to pick a side, really, but he's decided. Just for oil, Mark is running for MP as well. He's going to run on probably a peace and climate change platform. It's only a popularity contest in Rochdale. The one who hits the in the war drum hardest will have the biggest sway with the local Muslim population. They're pretty het up about the old Jew thing. Galloway, I agree with could reach an agreement, see his point of view on anything he argues with. The only thing I disagree with him on is, in essence, that old conflict, which is going to be the centerpiece of his campaign. So it's like, I'll not stand against Galloway. I don't mean stand for election, but, you know, like campaign against him. No. And it's like, why? It's like, because it would be a net win for Rochdale to have such a knowledgeable and high-profile Member of Parliament to speak for it, because he's not selling anyone out either, is he? As an MP for Rochdale, George Galloway would be a great move, because he'd be able to bridge the gap between two sets of working class populations. be unstoppable in Rochdale, George Galloway, because he'd get the Labour vote away from, basically he'll get the Muslim vote, or else he'll cause a division amongst the Muslim vote that will make a massive difference in the result. So George Galloway asked to campaign and to do the hustings and the like, will wipe the floor with everyone just because he's an expert. He knows what will ring true with everyone in this town. But on that larger stage thing, he's going to hit Labour as hard as he can with, you support the genocide. He's going to hit them as hard as they possibly can with that, knowing that they just have to sway the Muslim vote. And they'll get George Galloway, not a Labour MP. He'll return George Galloway as MP. And then it'd be a matter of immediately Galloway in this town be influential and powerful. Like, why? It's like, because the crowd who'll get him in would be a large part of what's already there. It's like he could turn an internal establishment another way. He could steer, this marriage of like NHS council, big voting block of people who are dependent on the government for the jobs and stuff like that. That's a big voting block in this country. He could get that fifth column, which is a bit green for my liking, and the Muslim vote on board at the same time. So you're like, George Galloway should win in Rochdale. You might think, well, like what? Well, yeah, put some money on it. George Galloway had ran at any stage in the last 15 years or so in Rochdale. He'd have won. As an independent even. Why? Because he could probably already bank on about 30,000 votes already. The core of his organisation, that Workers' Party of Britain, Greater Manchester. Galloway lives round here, spends most of his time in and around the Manchester area. This is kind of a second home to him, this region. George Galloway spends a lot of time here. So his organisation or his support base, his activism is massive in this part of the country. He can rely on people who are already in place all over the place as his allies to start campaigning for him in Rochdale. Why? Because they're already here. There's lots of offshoot and rebellious sort of political activist movements that pop up in Rochdale, in and around and amongst the Muslim community. And it's like that grassroots wish for another way. I've always found a way to George Galloway. I've always found a way to respect, or else now Workers' Party. He's whatever he calls it. So it's like his grassroots organisations probably have a higher pedigree than the local Labours, because they just have planks coming round knocking on your door who'll be arguing whatever's been in the Guardian this week. Don't really know much about anything outside that, and they will fight like a national campaign locally, and they don't know enough about the town to be able to say, hey, hang on a minute, what are you bringing here? What have you got to say? Because at the same time, there's 100 different things you could campaign on in Rochdale, but to hit it with the way the Labour Party are supporting Israel-Palestine, it's like that's a new angle that's going to be irresistible. So the guy who's running the Parents Against Grooming guy, I got no against. He's never done out to me. I think he's probably ineffectual in what he attempts to do. Probably could do better, but he's shows it almost a lack at this moment in time, almost a lack of taste to run in a by-election, and same with Mark as well. The only issue to fight on is right. This election's going to be solely decided by the local Islamic Muslim vote. It's like, who's going to win that battle? A guy from Rochdale Council, who's Mr. fucking politically correct Labour Party, or George fucking Galloway? See, I don't like the methods the methods there to be used, and Galloway's probably the most active in that political space, influencer in Britain. So he's now forced to pick it up and wield it. He has to. It's the you know the weapon of the enemy has been left on the battlefield, so he has to fight on that. And I'm like, you know, George, this topic is the only one that I disagree with you on. Your whole angle of support for imperfect regimes elsewhere in the world. It's like, I can't really stand by that. I think it needs closer inspection before one might trust the word of politicians, for want of a better word. So I disagree quite strongly with George Galloway on his position on the old Gaza, Israeli. His whole picture of the world from that angle, I think, is kind of skewed and old-fashioned, out of date. But he's better than most. I do remember Galloway and then others who I'd fallen under the influence under, talking up the situation in Venezuela, like, hey, Chavez. Talking about this miracle, and it's a matter of, they've built a government on top of a government that this isn't going to work. Like, first oil shock that hit Venezuela had it toppling, because it showed the world just how reliant they were on oil revenue to even pay the bills. Its huge social programs were all being paid for out of that money. And that's, you know, he did a very socialist thing to do, but it's a matter of, yeah, but you leave yourself open to the elements doing that. Oil shock can be caused by something that happens on the other side of the world that you play no part in. Natural disaster. Pandemic. Showing a weak place. Fell apart. Chavez suddenly dead. Chavez be someone like me who doesn't listen to fucking doctors. By the time they found out he was sick, he was already a dead man. Galloway, often on the wrong side of these, was saying that is, in his world, there is a case to be made as to say that the United States have desperately mismanaged the world and been a corrosive and corrupting force practically everywhere where they've operated. They've not been trustworthy people to do business with. They've been poor partners for the third world, but particularly good partners to those who kept the oil flowing, kept the money coming in, kept the trade lanes open. Could be said that the US has been a poor replacement for what the British Empire used to do. More dangerous, more ambitious. Different world, different weapons, different realities. New world. It's like my younger man's take on that. What is the pot boiler conflict? It's not the same as George Galloway's. It's not the same take. But saying that old, deep-rooted, traditional anti-Semitism and distrust and power to be gained in the modern world by portraying oneself hard done by and a victim, and the elements in the world of things like toxic compassion and caring for the sake of caring and feeling bad for others and empathy, turn it into a kind of a noxious brew, complicated, but everyone seems to be up in arms. So it's almost the ultimate bandwagon to jump on. Oh, we're standing up for the children. It's that rudimentary, that simple, and would appeal to anyone who wanted to just step up in the moment and, give it either Kumbaya or Allahu Akbar. It's there to be done. So it's like Galloway come along, good result, least of all evils in that situation. He's the guy who can bridge a gap between left and right in this town. But then the repercussions of that message sent to the Labour Party, right? Fuck knows what that leads to. You could end up with a situation as to where that trend catches on, which would see Labour at the absolute mercy of their Muslim voting bloc in the northwest of England, and they have them by the balls. Victory for Galloway means victory for Islam to some degree, as to say, a third way here. Just to see the third way and to snatch the third way, might see the quick rise of another party to fill that void. And they're sat waiting, thinking about it, weighing it up and plotting and scheming as to what their next step might be, as to where they live in the same world as the rest of us, up in this shiny part of the world, and they see the authorities and the councils and the government as weak. And you could see towns like Huddersfield and Halifax, places like Bradford, Leeds, places like that just fall into the hands of a new political organisation that would be centred around basically rapidly feasting on the corpse of the Labour Party, understanding the ins and outs of the local institutions better than anyone else. You get a big rebellion of current membership who just run up a new flag. I mean, it'd be a fine old thing to see the Labour Party get just trounced as being out of touch and ineffectual and stupid, right? Lacking vision, too afraid to speak. Just worthless, rubbish, non-people, not engaged with anything meaningful, going for nice dinners and shaking hands with people, giving the odd Obama speech. That's who they are. And they're not prepared for something organised that's got a cause or even a bone of contention that's not been addressed. They can't handle objections. It's like... So it's like, if those out there who might fancy feeding on the corpse of the Labour Party in the north of England, they'll have every eye on the Rochdale by-election. In fact, I'd expect there to be numbers arrive here from all corners to try to plumb what the depths are. It's like last time there was an election round here, it was fun because I was a little bit better connected and tiny little bit more high profile where it came to Rochdale as to where no one's asked my take yet. Someone will. Someone will come along and they'll say, John, can we have your take? Would you like to talk to us again about this sort of, thing you alluded to that was a major problem in the last election when we let you on the BBC? And you're like, it's just Labour Party around here. And when it's just Labour Party, it's like Labour Party find itself in the crosshairs. How do we get rid of the Labour Party? The Labour Party be entrenched, and the Labour Party be short-sighted, and the Labour Party be always set with the excuse that not enough money, no matter how they waste it. So it's like eventually, when there's no visible targets to rebel against for the way things go, stupid CAS charges, things that the council just impose, it's like, how do we stop these people? And then suddenly it's like, no matter what your political leanings or stripes are, the enemy always becomes the Labour Party, because in this part of the world it's the state. You're always going to turn, when the state's failing everywhere, or visibly failing everywhere, and things are looking a bit fucking bleak, who do you turn to? It's like, the Labour Party always blame the central government, and it's like, at what stage do they take responsibility even for the way that these towns end up? What's the government got to do with planning permission in Rochdale? Did the government take a decision to turn Rochdale town centre into a urban, what do they call it? An urban residential zone, as to where now all the bars are closing because they know now the buildings around them are being turned into flats, that they're no longer going to be able to play music and things like that, and they're no longer going to be able to open enough hours to make it viable. So it's like they know the nightlife's being destroyed by planning permission and noise abatement rules. So they're abandoning the town. They're having to run, and it's like, okay, so Rochdale Town Centre then become a neighbourhood. What? A neighbourhood? It's an urban residential zone, don't you know? No longer a township, they call it now. Like Soweto. Township. Soon there'll be no bank branches. They're going to turn the centre of the town into a neighbourhood. Nobody asked for that. It was decided by the Labour Party in some committee years ago, and the strategy's been moving towards it. It's like the internet has changed the world and changed the nature of commerce, but to be like, oh, well, we've got a housing problem. Well, we've got a lot of empty commercial property. We taxed them to death for years, and then when we'd killed them all, we said, oh, sorry we killed you. Would you like to come back? And they said no. Not even for free rates? No. There's no foot traffic. Who am I going to sell to? People around here haven't got it. The kind of people who walk around the town aren't the kind of people who spend money anymore. You can only sell so many hot dogs. It's like, this is I'm fortunate in that I don't get out much, because it's a bleak place. It's like pockets. It's like balkanised. It's like, who stands against that? Who stops to say, hey, did we ask for this? Is this what we want? Someone's decided for us all of these things. Someone's borrowed money from banks. And as long as they can always charge us council tax and, in essence, always make sure they get paid, they can afford interest repayments forever. As long as there's people paying council tax, they can always borrow money. And that be how they operate as a corporation, a company, a business. Oh no, they're the government. They run for profit. Like, well, plenty of people get paid well. The provision of services. It's like there comes a time when that looks like just looking after old people. Just one-on-one, badly scaled use of manpower. Not going against that, but I'm saying lots of ordinary jobs become dependent on that kind of state, a care state. Lots of little jobs become dependent on it. It can't go on forever. Can't. Like, why? People live longer, you just run out of people, you just run out of labour. Maybe poorly paid. There's lots of work in the world for people like young women who want to look after old people. Plenty of work like that around. Plenty of work like that. It's like to take on Rochdale is to take on 1,000 valid grievances from every corner as to say, are you going to listen to us? Because when you start listening to people in Rochdale, it very quickly becomes a horror story. And then those with political ideas tend to fucking switch off. This place is corrupt. It's always been corrupt. It's been corrupt as long as I've been alive. No one's ever been held accountable for mistakes and errors made by people who've been previous members of the council, made decisions for the town, borrow lots of money, put plans in motion. No, never asked us about any of it. It's all been done by this unmovable, unshakable Labour Party committee. And then it's like, could we not infiltrate this organisation and bring it down? It's like, no, they do you in. Why? Because if you show any real aptitude, they're going to see you as a threat and you be gone. Suddenly it's like, a bit racist, are we? They operate like that. It's like those weapons work just as well in real life as they do on social media. It's like, who'd want to be associated with such people? So it's like a home for all colour of cunt. Labour politicians this town, you'll get to meet them. Even older boys like myself. Not an old boy, but I'm getting there. Talk to you like you're a child. Really, like, embarrassing. Talk to you like you're a child, like you know nothing. Patronising. And it's like, this is your attitude? As if I should somehow have gratitude to you for representing me, being so great. It's like, it comes off as that. And then in others, it comes off as, can't even look you in the eye. Can write the shit out of an email. Can't even look you in the eye. You get that too. So it's like, they're not, let's say, not people at large. They just appear from nowhere, from inside of a clique. This guy who's been put up as candidate for Rochdale, it's like, I'd never heard of him. I had to go and look up what he is. It's like, it's just some guy who sits on the council. Some guy who's part of the cartel of the Labour Party in the northwest of England. where decisions are made by this like regional cartel, yet us people who are the voters, we're segregated by constituency and boundaries. Well, they're not in the way they operate. They just work it amongst themselves. We don't work it amongst ourselves to oppose them, but they work it amongst themselves. Seems quite unseemly if, to say, a chap like me was to go to Oldham and start mouthing off about the Labour Party. They'd be like, "You're from Rochdale, you know nothing." But, you know, the same organisation rules over both towns, and the opposition to them is segregated. It's like, what's meaningful around here? It would be, at this stage of the game, vote for anyone who can throw down against them and defeat them and humiliate them. So it's a matter of, vote Galloway. Why? Because he'll kick all their fucking asses. It might be that it will be fought on foreign policy. Rochdale by-election, it being such a hot topic in Rochdale, it's like these Muslim guys, they get real hot about politics. They do. See, boom. You start talking about Israel, Palestine around those guys, and they're like, whoa. Vapors. They've got some connection to it. And it's like the guy comes along and utilises that, is going to win the vote. Not saying it's exploitative or anything. I'm saying that's what's there, and that's a political movement. That's a political sentiment. It's there, and this time it's going to be fully exploited. No deals. No, well, we all do nicely out of this, don't we? A bit of equality, and you know, in Rochdale, you know, when the council talks about the community, the local community, they don't mean white people. Don't mean me. They mean the community. They mean the one that they're plugged into, and it's the Labour Party, and it's Rochdale's Muslim community. But not all of the Muslims, just the ones who think themselves to do in the clique, in the gang, business owners, doing all right. And then from them, you'll have 1 and 2 degree separations from all the gangsters and the drugs gangs and the like. So you're in a minefield as to who might benefit from what, and who and why, and who knows what. So it's like can of worms, right? Of a by-election in Rochdale, all right. It's like, say, Billy Howarth, PAG UK. I say, don't know Billy, but I know people who know him, and I've heard him speak. I've seen his stuff on the internet. So, but he can turn up and have a fucking ton of ammunition. Ton of it. And be more in touch with what would be like kind of the hopes and fears of a large part of the community, a concern for the people who fucking actually live here. So he's tapped into a level of the game, entrenched, right? Probably shouldn't be running. It's like, why? It's like, because the big machine's going to come and wipe you on, and you just out your element. You might have something to say about the way the gangs operate in Rochdale, but you ain't got anything to say about the Israeli-Arab conflict, which they're going to fight it on. So it's like, plenty of ammo, doesn't matter what I say, he's going to do his own thing. Plenty of ammo, bang, 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 bang. He's going to blast that ammo into a crowd, right? Then it's like there's so much going on once. That will be then be attempted to be exploited as to being accused of being a far-right agitator and the like, because of his scattergun approach to addressing the problem. It's just there to be exploited. he can have the Islamophobic card thrown, and that'd be someone's job to throw that muck. So that then have possibly the effect of moving more towards a siege mentality of the local Muslim. When they see, you know, same fucking idiots around us, the Muslim community, right? They don't like them dickheads driving around like idiots in cars, racing on the fucking roads and all that, like acting as drug runners, basically living the fucking life. They're not so into it either. And if you want to appeal to them for their vote, you just promise to keep them safe from that kind of shit. You promise to uphold the law like you do anywhere else if you want to get the voters to say we're going to see what we can do about crime and people hanging about around here. Right, you promise that to people and they generally vote for you. See, Muslim community, fundamentally, bang kajunga, culturally conservative, more or less all of them, or as far as they even would say, they have got the trad, you know, the tradcon, the tradcast. In the eyes of their parents, they all like to be seen to be living that trad life that they say should aspire to kids. Some play the game, some are good guys. You meet a good Muslim, you meet a good family man who's generally right straight up and honest, and you're like, he's a good Muslim. We say he's a good man in general. It's not about him being a Muslim. Lives right. That level of thought, not available to most. Don't have that level of nuance, and it'd be a matter of pitter-patter at the minute. It's going to be a lot of talk around here of who really fucking runs and controls this town. Those of us who know already, and would see that force emerge that would get George elected appear, and it not be a surprise. But as far as being out of his fucking element, Mark Coleman, who will likely run on, hey, look, we need to ignore all these petty squabbles and concentrate on a real effect to cut the carbon emissions and just stop oil. He's about as far out of his element as he could possibly be, and I'd be surprised if he gets 6 votes. It's like you're massively out your element, mate, because all these local social issues that you could have for years campaigned against and know all about, right, hasn't done. Campaigns for Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion and the Warm Homes bullshit things they did. Insulate Britain. That's what he does. Fights an invisible enemy while the real enemy is all around. That's what Mark does. So it's like him running to be elected as the MP for Rochdale is a crass publicity stunt, likely funded by like Dale Vince. Globalist funded even, to muddy the water and then to also be able to throw down the man of the cloth thing. Because he's good at that. The kind and wise and gentle leftist doom-mongerer. He's gone more towards posting shit from that Roger Hallam guy who's just got a flair for apocalyptic vision and storytelling. So he started to propagate, you know, the planet's dying. You run for election in Rochdale, it's like and then there'd be peace, I believe in peace, and everyone should lay down their arms. Hasn't got anything to do with what goes on in Rochdale, but there are those who are going to use it. There are those who are going to hit it as fucking hard as they can to get themselves into power. And then you'll see the real action The real action is the Muslim population turning against the Labour Party, which is something that I've been waiting for my entire fucking adult life to see. Now they're in a position to do it. And it'll all start right here in Rochdale. If it's going to go, depending on what goes on the world stage between now and then, you might get it where the people of Rochdale be able to send a fucking long-lasting message that might just ring around the whole world, just for a day. Well, no one's asked for me take yet, but that's some of it. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a complicated issue. It's probably going to be funny. And it's probably might even get a bit silly when people start to take to the street to campaign. And where I'm situated, I think there's a chance I might just get every single one of them knock on my door. What a time to find yourself in my position as to where it's like I'm recovering from having, like, I'm lucky. That's the thing is, I keep being told how lucky I am. You've survived 3 massive heart attacks in December and January. 3 massive heart attacks and 1 minor one. No damage to your heart, no damage to your arteries, stuff. No high cholesterol, no blockages, no. You're very lucky. Like, how lucky do I have to be, and what happens when my luck runs out? So it's like I'm like walking a tightrope now. It's like I'm counting days since last heart attack. So at this moment in time, I am not the man for the job. Where, truth be told, not so long ago, I had been having a field day with a by-election in Rochdale as to my chosen candidate would fucking win. And it's like, why? Because I'd make sure. You wouldn't fix it, would you? No, but I'd get everybody talking about it. And if I really wanted to campaign, make a better case for Galloway being elected in Rochdale for just about anyone else I could think of, as to where if you could go out and choose who you'd want to run in Rochdale to upset the apple cart, he's the guy you'd want. He's the first person you'd go to. The perfect fit. Here's Rochdale and Galloway are the perfect fit. Could have told you that 15 years ago, maybe longer. I used to be a member of George Galloway's party in Rochdale. There was about 4 of us. By now, Greater Manchester, George Galloway's, say, campaigning organisation, people who volunteer and, campaign, but it's 1,000 strong right now. 1,000. It's like he could actually come up with doorstepping numbers in this town. Get those who are sort of agitated in the real mainstream politics of the town. Those who are interested in running for council and stuff like that, or have lost out in elections, they'll all now jump on board with George because he's more the flavour. Be interesting as to if rhetoric starts to fly, because it's going to. What the angles of attack are. I think I already know what they're likely to be, but what form they take will be really interesting.